Join me and learn how to make this fabulous beginner's baby blanket with gorgeous little stars designed by Kate Eastwood. Let's get started. So let's have a look at the body of the blanket. This is what it's going to look like. I'm just working on a little swatch to show you, but it's worked in US single crochet, UK double crochet, and it creates a really nice, it's firm but not too firm fabric. So we begin, as with so many things, with a slip knot. So to do a slip knot, create a slip knot, we take the yarn around your fingers with the yarn just falling like that, and then just bring the tail of the yarn through, actually either side, doesn't matter whether you do it with a tail or a working yarn. That brings your slip knot. Just pull to tighten, and then we begin with a chain. And how to work a chain, bring the yarn around the hook and through the stitch. So around and through the loop, around and through the loop, around and through the loop. So I'm just going to work a few, because we're just going to show you the beginning of that. And so I think in the actual original pattern you were at 91 chains. I've just done a few here to show you. So to begin the first row of the pattern, we work into the second chain from the hook. So when we count from chains from the hook, we go 1, 2. There's the second chain from the hook. And to create a single crochet US, double crochet UK, we just put the nose of the hook into the stitch. There are lots of ways of putting it into the stitch. You can put it through the bottom, you can put it through the top. It's entirely up to you. I tend to put my hook through the bottom there, and then bring the yarn around and pull it through. So you have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through those 2. And notice I'm holding on to the bottom there, because that helps to steady your hand. So I'm going to work into the next chain. I put my hook into the chain, pull up a loop. So we have 2 loops on the hook, yarn around the hook and pull through 2. This is a double crochet. So we go into, or single crochet US, into the chain, pull up a loop, yarn around and pull through 2. Into the chain, pull up a loop, yarn around and pull through 2. So I'm just going to work those to the end of the row. Now it's important that when you get to the end of the row that you work into the very last space. And can you see here, that's the last chain. So I'm going to, sometimes you have to wiggle your way in, pull up a loop, yarn around, pull back through 2. And that's the first row of working into the chain. Now we turn the work, so we're looking at the back now, and we chain 1, and when we chain 1, that takes us up to the next level of the next row. So we do just a single chain, yarn around, pull through the loop. So now we're a little bit higher up. Now if you look at the top, if I turn this so you can see, can you see there's like little V's? Whoops. A little V here on the top of the work. Those are the stitches, and we're going to work underneath both legs of the stitch. And I'll just show you here. That is working into the stitch, okay, under both the legs of that little V shape. So we're going to do exactly the same stitch we did before, but we put our hook into the very first V there that you can see under the V, pull up a loop, yarn around and pull back through 2. We do that again into the stitch, that means under both legs of the stitch, pull up a loop, whoopsie, yarn around, pull back through 2. It's fiddly when it's small like this, so we do under the legs of the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn around, pull back through 2, under the legs, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull back through 2. So I'll just work along and I'll show you the last stitch, because often what happens is that we miss the last stitch. So here this looks a little bit lumpy, doesn't it, actually, but it's because the yarn's a bit splitty. If you look, you can see that the little V is there. So I'm just going to pop my hook through. Can you see it has gone into the right place? Always make sure that you get that very last stitch. If you don't, that's when you get your work having a crooked edge. So that's the first couple of rows, and so we chain 1, turn, and work the same stitch all the way back until you get to this piece, which I've done a bit earlier, and you can see that as you start working those double crochets, and there's my chain up here, the fabric really starts to appear. So I'm going to show you on this swatch how it's coming along and how much easier it is once you get a bit more space. So put my hook into the loop and just tighten up. So I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to work in the same way all the way across here. So we put a yarn under the 2 V's, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn around and pull through into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn around and pull through. And so we work like that until you get to the end of the row. Now, because I'm just working this on a very small little swatch for you here, because if I was going to make the whole blanket, it would be a very long video. We're going to do what we do with the edging. I'm going to show you how it works, because it's got a very sweet little thing called a picot edging, and this will sort of stand you in great stead if you're going to make blankets at any point, because this is a beautiful edging that we can use to decorate any blanket you work on. So I'm coming to the end of my row here. Now the pattern, to even everything up nicely, there we go, that's the end of that row. To even everything up nicely all the way around, because you see on your vertical rows, so you've got your horizontal rows of stitches, and then we've got the vertical rows here, and the vertical side of your crochet is just not as neat as the top stitches. So what we're going to do, with the yarn still attached, so when you finish the blanket, you made the body of the blanket, you leave your yarn still attached, and we're now going to work some double crochet stitches all the way round the blanket, and that includes down this vertical side. Now, generally speaking, what you need to do is to work into each row. Kate Eastwood, who designed this pattern, actually has a slightly different method here, and she puts 2 stitches and then skips a row. So we'll do that. But just before we do anything else, we're going to work on the corner. Now the corner, we want to preserve that nice pointy corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to put another stitch into the corner there. And that little chain, you'll see as we go around, will allow us to put some more stitches in on the second go around to make it nice and square. So I'm going to work into the row, the end of the row here, and Kate suggests that what you do is you work 2 stitches into the end of a row, then miss 1, and then work 2 stitches into the next one, and then miss a row, and then 2 stitches into the next one. Now the idea behind this is that it helps your blanket to lie flatter. Whether that's it just stops it rolling up, but it just makes it a little bit flatter. And then I'm going to miss this row and work into the next one. 1, 2, just the same single crochet US, double crochet UK stitches, miss the next row and work into this one. So you're still ending up with the same number of stitches, you're just spreading them out slightly differently. Miss this next one and into there, 2 in there, 2 double crochets. And then we've come to the corner. Now I'm going to put a stitch into that corner, then I'm going to do chain 1 and then another stitch into the corner. And that, I'll take that out for a minute to show you, that will enable us to have a pointy corner as we come round for the second time. So as we're coming along here, I'm going to put a double crochet stitch into all of the stitches along the bottom of your work, just like you would if you were going round at any kind of other point. So you can meet me back here when I've got round to the edge and come right the way round. So I've gone all the way round our mini blanket, and I've come back to the corner where I first started going round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sharpen up the corner a little bit. I'm going to put in a double crochet UK, single crochet US, and a chain, and then another single crochet US, double crochet UK in there, just to give it a bit more shape. And then I'm going to just work another round of single crochet US, double crochet UK into the last round that I worked. And the reason we do that is just to give us a really nice solid edge. You can see here a really nice edge and that nice corner to work the edging into. So I will meet you when I've gone all the way around and come back to the start. So I just want to show you now how we do this lovely picot edging that comes around the side of the blanket. And it's difficult to see on this little weenie swatch, but when you do it on your big blanket, it's quite clear. It sort of looks like a little wiggle, and it's just a couple of chains built into every stitch. It's really simple to do and it looks so effective. So this is how we work this lovely little border. So to create the picot, the first thing we do is to slip stitch into the next stitch, and from when you start it as you go around, it's the same right at the beginning. So we put the hook into the stitch, pull the yarn through and through the loop on your hook. Then we do 2 chains, 1, 2, and then we slip stitch back into the same stitch. So I'm going back in there, and remember when we do a slip stitch we just pull the yarn through and through the loop. The slip stitch is the flattest of all of the stitches. Can you see it's just made a little hump there? It's super pretty. Let's do it in the next one. So we put the hook in, so we're going to do a slip stitch into this stitch. You pull the yarn through the stitch and through the loop, and then 2 chains, 1, 2, and then we put that back into the stitch where you've just done it, pull it through and through the loop, and so you end up with this little wiggly frill. It's super cute. If you wanted to, you can miss a stitch and have a more defined picot. I'll show you that one just in case. But you can mess about with this. You could do a slip stitch into the next stitch, and then a slip stitch again to move, and then you could do your 2 chains and then slip stitch back in, and that would give you a little gap. So it's entirely up to you. You can have them nice and close like this. It is very small on my little swatch, to be fair. When you do it on your blanket you'll see it a bit better. So that is how we work the picot edge. Now there's just one thing that we need to add onto our blanket, and those are the little beautiful stars that you see that Kate's designed. And I've got one here, and I'll just in a minute just going to show you how to make these. They're really easy. So you make as many of these as you like, and then all you need to do once you've got your blanket to full size is just dot them around wherever you want them to be. And obviously I've got one which is rather big on my swatch, but then you just sew them on, and you can sew them on with just sewing cotton so that they are anchored really nicely and you can't see the stitches. And so let me show you how to make this cute little star. Right, so let's make the stars that we then stitch onto the blanket. So I've got my working yarn here, the tail of the yarn is pointing towards me. We're going to start this off with something called a magic ring, and the magic ring enables us to create something which doesn't have a hole in the middle. So with these stars it makes it sort of really nice and solid. So you start with the tail towards you, and then just take the yarn around your fingers, around 2 fingers like this, so you've got an X. Then you slide the hook under the first strand, hook the second strand, and then just twist it towards you. And when you let go, what you've got here is a little ring like that, and you've got the tail of the yarn towards you and the working yarn over here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to crochet, and it is a bit fiddly and I apologise for this on camera. We're going to crochet 5 double crochet UK, single crochet US over the top of these 2 strands. So I've got my working yarn behind me here, and it's difficult to get these really super neat, but don't worry. So I've gone in, picked up a yarn, and then pull through 2. So we go into the loop, pick up a loop, into the circle, sorry, pull through 2, into the circle, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, in again, pull through 2, in again, pull through 2. Now that gives us, you can see there, 5 single crochet US, double crochet UK inside the magic ring which is there. Now if I pull, I'm going to hold on to that stitch there. If I pull the tail, what happens is that this ring closes and there's no gap in the middle. So I'm just going to pull it tight. Look at that. Absolutely no gap in the middle. And then I'm just going to slide it round, and I'm going to slip stitch to join the circle into this first stitch at the beginning here. So I'm going to put my hook in, whoopsie, into the first stitch and pull the yarn through. So this little magic ring is the beginning of our star. So we've got 5 stitches here, and what we want to do is to create the next round by making it slightly bigger by putting 2 single crochet US, double crochet UK into each stitch. So I'm going to work 2 single crochet US into each stitch. So I'm just going to put my hook into the first stitch there, to slide it through both legs, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and the same thing again. So I've put 2 stitches into that first stitch. So I'm going to work my way round the circle. 1, 2. 2 in the next one. So we're going from 5 stitches up to 10. This is a standard process for increasing, is to put 2 stitches into 1 stitch. Just work our way around around the circle. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stitches around our little circle there. And then I'm just going to slip stitch into that first one there to join. So it goes through both legs. Pull the yarn through that one and that one. So that is the next round. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to create the first point of the star, and we're going to move along a stitch just to do it so that we miss the next one. So I'm going to just slip stitch across a little bit just to move us along. Sorry. So here we go. So we're going to start off with chain 4. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this forms the first point of the star. So working back along this chain, the first thing I'm going to do is to work into the second chain from the hook. 1, 2. We're going to put a slip stitch. So we just put the hook in, pull the yarn through and then through your original chain. In the next stitch here, we're going to work a single crochet single crochet US, double crochet UK, and I'm going to put my hook in there. So you put your hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over, yarn over, pull through 2, so it's a double crochet, and then in the last stitch, the stitch that's nearest to the circle, we're going to put in a half double crochet US, half treble UK, and to do this we put the yarn around the hook, then put your hook into the chain, pull up a loop, so you've got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull back through 3, and that creates our first little point of the star. And then what we do is we slip a stitch, so there's a stitch there. We're going to work a slip stitch to anchor our little point into that stitch there. So I'm just going to put my hook through, pull it through and slip stitch. Can you see that's now created a sweet little point that's anchored back onto the circle? So now we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to miss this next stitch and we're going to slip stitch into the one over here. So I'm just going to slip stitch across to there, and then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to do exactly the same thing for another point. So we're going to work a slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, then a single crochet US, double crochet UK, and then a half double crochet US, half treble UK. So we go into the second chain from the hook, whoopsie, and slip stitch, then into the next chain we work a double crochet, and into the bottom chain we work a half double crochet US, half treble UK, yarn over, pull back through 3. So here's our second point of the star, and I'm going to slip stitch, whoopsie, into the next there. So now you've got 2 points on the star. Now I'm going to carry on and do the other 3 points in exactly the same way and meet you back here. So I've got all the way around in my stitches. I'm just going to pull that last stitch through, snip it off and finish off. So once you've got your little stars, all that you then have to do is to stitch them onto the blanket. And as I said before, you can make as many stars as you want to go on the blanket. I think Kate said she made 23 for her little blanket, but they will look absolutely gorgeous when you come to stitch them on. Well done, we've finished Kate Eastwood's gorgeous starry baby blanket. I'd love to know what colour you've made yours in and who it's for. Don't forget, leave me a comment and tell me all about it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for lots more fabulous tutorials. Happy crochet!